So, a little bit of history, a little bit of a story. Sit back and listen. You can ask questions later.
Okay.
That uh, the Buddha was kind of very good at what he did. He was let us say accomplished in many things. He was accomplished in elephant training, accomplished in horse training. He was accomplished in the Vedas. He had good education. He was a prince, in fact, and he got the best kind of education. So he was very good at being a warrior. But he also did not want to go to war. So when the Sakyans wanted to go to war, and he was already part of the parliament, and he had declared fidelity to the Sakyan parliament, and they decided to go to war, he couldn't stay in the parliament because he didn't want to go to war. And so he left, took a hike. That was probably the first sign of something he did right in his life. He left. And he wandered around for 6 years, and he practiced all kinds of austerities, all kinds of jhanas. He became actually the best dude there was at jhana. He had two teachers. One was Amakalama, and the other one is Ramaramaputta. And that he was able to do those jhanas to the point that they wanted him to become the teacher. But he told them, that's not what I'm looking for. And so then he went to Naganataputta, who was known as Mahavira, the head of the Jains, and there he was doing austerities. And he did them better than everybody, to the point that he almost killed himself. This is where images of the starving Buddha come from. And because he had gotten himself so weak that when he slipped and fell in a creek, he couldn't even get up. And he had then the thought that if I cannot find what I'm looking for, if I'm too weak to even stand up. And so he gave up those austerities because they weren't getting him what he was looking for. And he got something to eat. They say that, in fact, it was rice milk from a cow herd's daughter. And then that's when the story of the rose apple tree comes in. When he remembered and reflected that when he was a teenager, when he was a young man, and his father, let us say, head of the Sakyan clan, was doing a plowing ceremony to open the plowing season. And Siddhartha, he went and sat under a rose apple tree instead of being out in the hot sun doing a plowing ceremony. And that's where he was practicing or fell into or whatever through the practices that he had been taught by his teacher and had the first jhana. So he reflected upon that at this time in the story and said, why am I afraid of the sensual pleasures that come from this first jhana? That it is not the same as sensual desires that people find in, downtown in the brothels, etc. And so then he reflected, the path to what I'm wanting, the path to freedom, the path to enlightenment is the first jhana. And so that's what he did. He started practicing just the first jhana. Now, Westerners, they want to give numbers. And the higher the number, the better the jhana. And they want more and more and more. But the path to freedom is actually the first jhana. And the path to freedom, actually, the first jhana has 5 elements with a 6th one on the side. And one of the qualities is to be free from the hindrances. Number 2 is to be able to apply the mind and sustain it to be free from the hindrances. And then the next is to have the quality of sukha, which has the qualities of being safe and secure and comfortable and satisfied. And that state of satisfaction was what he was looking for. Dukkha, dukkha nirodha is the teaching of the Buddha. He's all about dukkha, seeing it and coming out of it. And that's the state in the first jhana of being free from dukkha. And then when you practice enough of the freedom of dukkha, you begin to get good at it. So one of the problems with the jhanas that most students have, especially Westerners, is that they want those high numbers. And so they want to skip steps. They want to jump around instead of actually establishing over and over and over to apply the mind, to sustain the mind in that state that's free from the hindrances, free from danger, free from fear, free from dissatisfaction. That's to be practiced with the Satipatthana. The whole point of the practice is to have the body, the feelings, the mind, and the mind's objects free so that you don't have any feelings of danger. You're not actually in danger. There's nothing to fear. And so this is the path, but it has to be practiced over and over and over again. Now, it's actually possible for someone, once they have established the first jhana, that they can then go into the second and then come back to the first jhana. But almost always, whenever anybody has the first jhana, immediately they want to go into the second jhana, which means they haven't established the first jhana yet. It's almost like building a house without a foundation. That the foundation is the important point. You have to build that foundation. You have to practice over and over and over again to get yourself into a good state where you feel safe, secure, comfortable, and satisfied. And that's just called the first jhana because that's the old tradition. It's an ordinary state that you can walk around in, you can talk to people, you can have a ball. Just living your life, feeling safe, secure, comfortable, satisfied, and then successful. This is all there is to it. When you feel safe, secure, comfortable, satisfied, and successful, you're free from the hindrances. You've got joy, you've got pleasure, and you've relaxed. That's another quality of it. The sixth quality is that the body is relaxed. And when you're relaxed, when you have the mind applied to the wholesome, sustaining the wholesome, when you have the mind that is free from the hindrances and also free from worry, frustrations, all of that, when you're free from fear. This is the first jhana, and it's walking around kind of stuff. The other jhanas are not. It is actually possible to do in a fixed way the second jhana while in a walking meditation, but you need to set up boundaries so that you recognize those boundaries. But third jhana, fourth jhana, and all of the stuff that you do in the fourth jhana is dangerous to be out in the world doing that stuff. That you need to be in seclusion, you need to be protected because you're already going to be feeling safe. So don't go practicing. In fact, there's a story about two guys, Westerners, you know, and they're probably well known. One's a teacher, and so they're driving. I think the guy who's driving the car is saying, "Okay, I'm in first jhana," and then okay later I'm in second jhana. Well, you can't say you're in second jhana when you're in second jhana because you have to have the thought that you're in second jhana. So you can't do that. And then he says, I'm in the third jhana. You can't talk, and you certainly can't drive a car. And when you're in the fourth jhana, you can't stop and drive a car. So if I was a cop, I would immediately have stopped him and did a DUJ on him, driving while under the influence of jhana, because it's dangerous. You'll kill yourself. So that's the whole point is that these higher jhanas are actually not necessary, can be done, but that's not what the teachings of the Buddha are about. The teaching of the Buddha is to be safe, which means secure, which means satisfied. And satisfaction, sukha, is exactly opposite of dukkha. And that's the whole teaching right there. If you can get that established, then you can forget every other Westerner that has never been ordained. Don't go and read books from people who have not been ordained and spent 10 or 20 years as a monk. That in fact, Westerners 20 years as a monk is also suspicious. They need to be in the robes 40 years People like Achan Samedo, Achan Pasano, Achan Amaro, those are the kind of guys that are worthy being around. But if you really want to find some enlightened ones, you got to go find some old monks. You're not going to find anything of any value written by someone in English who has never been ordained. And that's just the way that it is. Why? Because you can take the boy out of the country, but you can't take the country out of the boy. It's got to be, let us say, over time, washed out, scrubbed out, one thought at a time, over years. It takes time because of the way that people want things. You got to stop wanting stuff. You got to become satisfied with the way things are. That's the first jhana, is to get yourself into a state of satisfaction, and do that over and over and over and over and over again until the Dhamma, the teaching of the Buddha, is the only thing you care about. That's all that matters. And when you get yourself to the point that the only thing that you care about is the teachings of the Buddha, you want to listen to it, you want to hear it, you want to speak it, you want to teach it, you want to be around people who are doing it, you become eager for the teaching, for the Dhamma, and then delighted with it, that it's the only thing in town, it's the only thing, it's the only show in town. And when you're in that state, to where you're not interested in anything else, that's stream entry. Experience is not. It's repetition of being in the Dhamma. It's the repetition over and over and over again of feeling safe, secure, satisfied, comfortable, and successful, over and over and over. In fact, the very first step is that when the student has the understanding that no matter how disruptive or obstructed or hindered or unwholesome thoughts that the mind will have, he can throw that stuff right out and come back to reality. That's the first step. That's the first knowledge. And that knowledge actually is noble. It is, in fact, supra-mundane, and it is a factor of the path. And most importantly, it's not held by ordinary people. Those ordinary people that write Dhamma books, those ordinary people who are on Reddit, they don't have a clue that they've got to be 100% dedicated, nonstop, moment by moment, day in, day out, dedicated, enthusiastic, and delighted with the Dhamma. Nothing else is going to do. And in that state of delight, that's the first jhana. Only then is the mind fit for deliverance. But that's the first knowledge. The first knowledge is that you come out of the hindrances and you keep out. And anytime the hindrances come, you recognize it, you see it, and you throw it right back out. So you can leave those books behind. There's nothing to them. But in fact, they're just chock full of information that's unnecessary. All you need to know is that you're okay. All you need to know is that when you see a hindrance, you can come out of it. So keep looking. Be mindful. Watch your thoughts. Watch your feelings. Watch your mental attitude. Watch the body posture. Watch the 4 foundations of mindfulness. That's what the Satipatthana is all about. And that's the real teaching of the Buddha, is to be mindful, to watch, to remember, to look, and to change. But the Buddha's model is a change model. It's not an attainment model. Anybody who's trying to attain anything in Buddhism is on the wrong path. And in fact, wanting to attain something is exactly opposite of what the Buddha talks about. The Buddha talks about being satisfied with what you've got. Another way of looking at it is that the teaching of the Buddha is actually a dead loss. You're not going to get anything. You're going to lose it all. What are you going to lose? Your worries, your frustrations, your sadness, your anger, your uh, fear. That's what you're going to all lose away. But you have to come to the state of being satisfied before all of those defilements eventually fall off. And those defilements do fall off only after one becomes a sotapan, when they become completely dedicated to the Dhamma. This is what the Sotagama practice is to always, moment by moment, keep looking at the defilements of the mind and throw them out. That's it. And when you get almost all of them thrown out, then that's the anagami, where he is the only problems he has are the problems that he sees in his own mind. In reality, there's no problems. And the Arhat's the one who stops seeing problems altogether. He doesn't see them because he's trained himself over and over and over again to come out of those hindrances, and he's good at it enough to whereas as soon as the hindrance comes within walking distance, he's out of it, so that it doesn't get to him. So it's always a dead loss. There's no attainment. There's nothing to get. It's everything to lose. This is why the Buddha was big on sunyata. There's nothing to it. There's nothing there. Drop your desires. Drop your wants. Drop everything. Drop your reading books and start reading the only book that matters, and that is the one between your ears. Start looking at what's happening in your own mind, and then make a change to it. That's all there is to it. That's the whole teaching right there. Dukkha, dukkha nirodha. See the dukkha in your mind, see the dukkha in your feelings, see the dukkha in your body, see the dukkha in your attitude, and those four things, and fix it, change it, make an improvement. But you have to keep looking. And the best way to do that is in seclusion. The Buddha was really big on getting away from the world. And what happens when students get away from the world is they figure out that they brought the world with them. Even though they left the world, here it is. Where is it? Now it's between the ears. It's in the mind. And so we have to leave the world in the mind, which means leave all in the hindrances and coming to a state of safe, secure, comfortable, satisfied, and happy. Content. Free from all the hassles and the worries. You become successful at doing that by practice. And eventually, you become wealthy with joy, so that that's all you have to give is the Dhamma and your own joy. It overflows. This is the teaching of the Buddha. So, with that as a foundation, we can start to practice correctly. What do you think?
Oh, that's a lot.
There's nothing to it.
Yes.
Wherever the dukkha is found, throw it out right now. Throw out those hindrances. Throw out those thoughts. Throw out the desires to attain things. And just be satisfied with what you've got. That's easy. There's not a lot to it.
What do you mean by throw out? What do you mean by that?
I mean, actively make a change. Okay, here's an example of that. Let us say that you are in southern state chain gang with a real ball and a real chain around your ankle. And you, while the guards are not looking, you are able with a stone or whatever to release that ankle bracelet. Okay? What are you going to do then? Are you going to sit there with that ankle bracelet very close by? Or are you going to get as far away from it as you can? What are you going to do?
You mean somebody tied your ankle to?
Yeah, you know what a ball and chain is. You know
Yeah.
what shackles are, right? So you're shackled.
Ball
And
and
you're released from the shackles. So there they are. They're laying on the ground within 1 inch of your foot. What are you going to do?
well, I would leave that. I would not, you know.
Leave, exactly. You're going to take the right noble effort to get the hell out of Dodge.
Okay.
The act, you heard the statement of letting go.
Yes.
Letting go is a very passive kind of thing. We're not letting go. That takes very little effort. We need to put in the right noble effort to get away from it, to throw it out. When you see those unwholesome thoughts, you get rid of them. You throw them out. You replace them with wholesome thoughts. And when that unwholesome thought comes back, you throw it out again. I'm not going to think about that. Let us say that you just had an argument with your mother-in-law and now she's gone to town and you're still there fuming and fussing about the argument that you had with her. You need to throw those thoughts out. She's not there anymore. Why think about her? Get them out of the thought. Go think about something else. Get her off your mind. Say goodbye to her and kick her out of your mind.
But don't people do that like normally? No?
No, they don't. They will sit there and they'll dwell and they'll say, I'll tell her this and I'll tell her that when she comes back.
But if you're wise, you wouldn't do that, of course.
But if you're wise, you're not going to dwell on it. You're going to throw her out of your mind. And when thoughts of her come back up, you're going to stop those thoughts and say, I'm not going to think about her. I want to throw her out. So if that argument with your mother-in-law is like the shackles, you're going to get rid of them. You're going to throw them away. You're not going to have thoughts of her.
They're not necessary. They're not necessary, really.
Pardon?
They're not necessary. They're thoughts. The thoughts. And
Right.
it's doing anything, anyways. It's not like.
Not only that, but they're downright unwholesome. They're hindrances to prevent one from feeling really good.
So
They're unwholesome.
You have no hindrances. You would feel like really, really good. Like.
Yeah, you feel really good because you're free.
So you
Let us say it like this. Okay, so here's an analogy for you. You're walking down the beach early in the morning and you start seeing some beautiful shells. So you pick one up, you like it, you look at it, you put it in your pocket. Pretty soon you keep doing that and now your pockets are full of shells. So you take your shirt off and tie it in a knot so that it becomes a bag. And now you throw that bag over your shoulder, and every time you find a new shell, you put it in your bag over and over and over again, and pretty soon that bag is full of shells. Right? That's what people do their whole lives. They pick up little baubles that they like, and they keep them in their memory. When are you going to, in fact, go through that list of stuff, go through that bag and say, oh, I don't need this one anymore. I can throw that one out. I can take it out of the bag and throw it back on the shore. And pretty soon you empty the bag because you didn't need any of those shells. You just thought that they were beautiful in the first place and you wanted them. But you're actually better off without shells. It's easier to walk when you don't have a bag full of crap to carry around. Baggage. And so that's the deliverance. And so what we have to do is keep remembering, don't pick up that next shell. Don't keep it. Throw the old shells out and don't pick up new ones. This is the right noble effort, and it takes effort because we like those shells. We want to keep them. One of those shells, in fact, might be enlightenment, you know. One of those shells might be origami. One of those shells might be jhana. Wow, I want all that stuff. And it just becomes a bunch of baggage.
But that's still Dhamma, though. What's wrong with wanting jhanas or, you know? That's not,
When you want them, you don't have them. When you want them and don't have them, that means that you're not good enough. You're not whole. You want something. So that means that there's a hole in you and you're not satisfied when you want stuff.
Of
The
course.
question is, can you remain satisfied, whether you have the jhana or not? And if you're satisfied without the jhana, then who needs it? Out it goes. I don't need that. It's just another beautiful shell. When you come to the state of things are good enough. And Western society is strongly teaching every baby that's born is completely intentionally schooled into wanting stuff.
I mean, on television, they, play some, some kind of anime, and then they sell toys with that, I don't know, like they play Pokemon on television, and then kids want to like buy Pokemon toys and shit like that,
Mm-hmm. Yes. The people who are in business, they want to sell you stuff. So they're not happy until they make you buy it. And so they'll lie to you, they'll cajole you, they'll do anything they can to get you to want what they have so that you'll buy it. And then they can feel happy for a short moment, and you'll feel happy for a short moment until the next customer comes by. So all of that worldly pleasure is temporary. And so what if you could do all the jhanas? The Buddha could do all the jhanas and he was still dissatisfied.
Why was he? Why couldn't you just get into jhana and be satisfied? I mean,
Because you can't walk around, you can't talk, you can't eat, you can't fart, you can't shit, you can't do nothing when you're in those jhanas.
But he came out, and then he be in hindrances.
And then he was dissatisfied again. When he came back out of the jhanas, he came back out into hindrances.
But why couldn't he be in first jhana then? He knew about first jhana.
That's what he eventually figured out. Gosh, you're slow.
But don't you?
Why do you keep wanting to argue with me? Look at the fact that you want to argue. You're wanting to argue. You're wanting something.
But don't you need the first jhana to become second jhana?
Then why don't you do first jhana right now instead of arguing with me?
No, I'm interested in why Buddha, he couldn't, if he want to, he had the higher jhanas, he needed to get lower jhanas, right?
Well, you're the one who is comparing the jhanas to higher and lower.
I'm just talking, like.
That's because you've been taught that by people who don't know what they're talking about. You can't even give me a technical definition of the third jhana. You don't even know what it is. It's just a number out there. It's just a word. And because it's a word and a number, it's like some picture of an automobile in a magazine. And you see that picture of a car in a magazine, and now you want it. You haven't ever seen that car. All you've seen is a photo of it.
I read it in a book.
You want something you don't even know.
Read it in a book.
Yeah, you read it in a book.
On Reddit.
You read it on Reddit. Okay, I got that. So you read it, and now you want it, and you don't even know what it is.
Now I don't want it now. I'm good. I'm good now.
Okay. That's what you need to practice is that you're good now. That's the practice. Keep practicing that.
Yes. Well, I mean, it's not really I mean, is it a practice? It's just, thoughts just arise from, and that's it.
It's an easy practice. That's it.
Yes.
Nothing to it. Just stop wanting stuff.
Well, you can't just say that.
Only be wise with what you want. Wisely want, so that when you want something wisely, it's immediately available. But if you want something that you don't have, then you're dissatisfied. Wanting something that you don't have, that's the technical definition of dukkha. Go look up the technical definitions of dukkha. You'll see that it has, first off, it says old age, sickness, and death, because all of those are things that make dissatisfaction. Then it says lamentation, grief, and sorrow, because those are the big heavy duty things that we do. But then it comes down to the little things that we do often, and that is want something that we don't have and putting up with something that we don't want to put up with, something that's difficult to endure, and we don't like it. And we're ignorant to that. So become wise to, when you know that you're wanting something, you can tell yourself, hey, I don't need that right now. I'm okay. I'm good without it.
Yeah. Yeah, of course.
Yes, of course. You don't need it right now. You don't have it right now. But if you need it and want it right now and you don't have it, that's the state of dissatisfaction now, isn't it? You're not complete. You're not whole. You're not even a good you, because you don't have what you want. But if you don't want anything, then you're whole. You're complete. You're okay.
Yeah, of course.
This is the teaching of the Buddha, not the jhanas. He does not teach jhana. He teaches to be free from dukkha, to be satisfied.
He teaches eightfold noble path, right?
Yes, the Eightfold Noble Path to satisfaction, which is part of the Four Noble Truths, which is part of his original teaching of dukkha, dukkha, nirodha. See the dukkha and come out of it. And here's the path to do that. That's all he teaches, is dukkha, dukkha, nirodha.
Does he teach three characteristics?
Well, the three characteristics exist, and a whole lot of people worry a whole lot about it. But let's look at it this way. For sure, everything is changing. Anicca exists in reality. It's a part of reality. It's not a part of the teaching of the Buddha. It's just real. Everything is in flux. Everything is in turmoil. The wind blows. The water flows. The laptops break. People die. Things keep changing. That's the reality. So, if you, because of anicca, that if you are wanting things to be different than they are, if you've got a self involved, if you've got a dog in the fight, then you're going to be dissatisfied when things change. But if you're not there, if you don't care, then you've got no dukkha when things change. That's the three characteristics. Still back to the same teaching. Don't try to fool me into saying all the Buddha teaches this, that, and the other thing. He only teaches one thing. Get that.
So what about a characteristic of dissatisfactoriness? What do you think about that? So that everything is dissatisfactory.
That's dukkha. Dissatisfaction, wanting things to be different than they are, wanting something that you don't have, wanting things to be the way that they should be instead of real, wanting things to be your way instead of real, is dukkha. So you have to do two things then in that regard. One is you have to stop wanting things the way you feel. And number two, you have to stop making rules about how things should be. And don't be idealistic. Don't try to fix things that are broken. Just be satisfied that they're broken.
Oh, so you shouldn't want not wanting.
Yeah, don't want not wanting. That's an old one. Desiring desirelessness is dukkha. Whatever you desire, stop desiring desirelessness and just stop wanting anything. See that. Oh, I want to be free. And then make that change. Oh, I am free.
Yeah, but I still have preference not to suffer. I mean, like
Why you want to, you keep wanting to argue with me? Why can't you just accept what I'm saying and put it into reference? And you keep wanting to argue. Yow but, yow but, yow but, yow but. Do you see that? You see that you continue to be dissatisfied and you want to win a point with me.
I don't want to win. I'm good.
So now you're telling me that you're stupid and you're ignorant and you don't even recognize it. I can see it as plain. I mean, people who will watch this video, they can say, yeah, he's arguing. He wants it to be his way. He wants to win points. And you don't even see that. You don't even know that you're doing it.
No, I don't want to win any points. I'm good.
All right. Well, then let's be good. You just go practice the way that I've been teaching you, and you'll be fine. You don't have to do any more yes buts or yeah buts or what about isms or any of that. You can just say, oh, okay, I'm going to go be satisfied.
Yeah, I'm satisfied now. I'm good.
Okay, excellent.
I just need to maintain it. That's the problem.
That's it. So you have to practice to maintain it.
I have to maintain it. That's the point.
Practice.
That is the whole point.
That's the whole point, is to practice. Practice. Make that change over and over again. See your dissatisfaction. See you wanting to make a point. Instead of saying, oh, I see what he's talking about. Let's do it right now.
I mean, it's interesting to like talk about this stuff. I mean, for me at least.
Now you're justifying your behavior. Do you see that?
Yeah, I see that.
Yeah, you see that you're justifying it. You're trying to make yourself okay, in my mind, when in fact, the place to make yourself okay is within your own. You don't have to convince me. I can see.
Okay, I'm good then. Okay.
All right.
Let's
We'll
finish
see
the
you
chat.
later. You go practice this. You go practice being satisfied.
Oh, I'm practicing now. That's the point.
All right.
Okay, bye.
Okay, we'll let you go and you can go practice being satisfied.
Okay, bye.